It's the Osceola's Seminole Sidelines. For more on the Seminoles, including Osceola's coverage from veteran Seminole insiders, message boards, Osceola virtual happy hours, and more, go to theosceola.com. And right now, enter the code FSU20 and get 20% off your annual subscription. That's FSU20.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Osceola's Seminole Sidelines podcast. My name is Patrick Burnham. I'm a football writer for the Osceola and the host of Seminole Sidelines. I am joined today by Osceola football analyst Mark Salva, and our special guest today is FSU offensive line coach Alex Atkins. Hey, Coach Atkins, first of all, thanks for joining us. We know it's a busy time for you, even though you guys are on an off week. And as I was telling Mark before we jumped on with you, with all three of us being former college offensive linemen, we should have done this over lunch as opposed to Zoom, but hopefully we'll be able to do that down the road.
I'm going to hold you to that now, Pat. Thanks for having me, and thanks for you and Mark having me here today.
Well, I know you settled in Midtown originally, so I'm not opposed to meeting at Four Rivers versus barbecue. So.
No, it's right across the street from the house. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Coach, obviously we got a lot of things we want to cover with you, but first of all, and we want to get to what's going on with your offensive line this year, which is drastically improved based off what most FSU fans saw last year and the year before that. But let's talk a little bit about your background. Why you got into coaching, why you became an offensive line coach. And for most of us, that starts when they tell us that we can't play quarterback, receiver, or running back. When did your career in the offensive line start as a player, and kind of talk us through the early years of Alex Atkins as a football player?
Well, yeah, I was born in Chicago, born and raised. And back then, we didn't have much little league football, so we played flag football. And I was already a big man, so I was a flag football lineman. So I have not had the experience of playing another position in my life. I've always been a big man, so I've always been offensive line. No matter if my friends had a pickup game at the park, I had to be the center. So it wasn't too much. I used to try to fight it, but no, that was my calling. But no, I played at small school, UT Martin. Really enjoyed my time there. Got to play for some great coaches and learn from some great coaches. While my time was there, Jason Simpson, who I played with my senior year, is actually still the head coach there, and got me into coaching. It kind of really talked me into it. I was on my way when I graduated from college. I was actually about to go to Illinois and take the state trooper exam. I was all in. I had already took the first part of the exam, was going to take the second, and he called me in and told me he wanted me to, help out coaching. Would I be interested in getting my master's degree and continue my education, because they had a spot. And then what I didn't realize, he was setting me up because he put me in the equipment room. So I started my coaching career riding the U-Haul to set up locker rooms. And I tell you what, as a player, I thought it was magic when all the lockers were set up and your stuff was in your bin. When you came in, your clothes were clean and everything was all set up and ready to go. And in my mind, it was just a little fairy doing all that kind of stuff. So it gave me an appreciation of all the operation that goes into the sport, and especially in college football. And, it's even magnified at Florida State. So I appreciate him doing that, because I believe in his own way he was trying to show me, because I had a good career at UT Martin. We won the first conference championship and things like that, that doesn't matter anymore. Now where does your value come in? If you're going to help us, how are you going to help us? So it was just a humbling experience of learning how to add value to the program, which really helped me out throughout my career. And I guess that's really the foundation of my coaching and my style of coaching. My philosophy is everything is find where you add value. We like to find what we can get out of things, but if you can add value in some way, whether it be coaching or playing or anything, where do you find your value at?
Yeah, well, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to ask, so in your coaching journey, who were your mentors, your influences in terms of where you learned your craft, both in your technique and coaching, but also what you teach? Who were your influences?
Well, the first person would be Jeep Wade. He's not in coaching anymore, but he was formerly O-line coach at East Carolina, Middle Tennessee. He GA'd at Tennessee for Philip Former and Randy Sanders and those guys. So a lot of my language and my base learning of football came from him. He was my position coach in college. So when I first started coaching GA, and I worked for him. So he was a lot. And then the offensive coordinator at the time was Mark Satterfield. He's the assistant O-line coach for the Panthers now. He was the OC at Temple. He was the tight end coach at Baylor. He was my coordinator. He hired me when I was at Etowah Community College. He hired me to be the O-line coach at Chattanooga. So those two really started my coaching philosophy. Now, from then, I've been with a lot of, excellent O-line coaches, from Mike Cummins to I worked with Jeff Durden, who's the OC at Richmond. I worked with Willie Fritz, who's an amazing football coach. And I was with Will Healy, who took it to a whole other level as far as relationship with players and his approach. And now being with Mike Norvell, full circle, I've worked with and for some fantastic coaches.
Now, Coach, you mentioned obviously now working for Coach Mike Norvell. Kind of explain to everyone what was the connection there, how you guys ended up coming together and deciding that Tallahassee was the place for you.
Well, we were rivals. He was at Memphis while I was at Tulane. So we went against each other twice, three times actually, and I went 1 and 2. So he got the betterment of those matchups. He likes to bring up that one time I got him a lot, though. I try to ignore that because I saw his offensive dominance in all those performances. So that was our original connection, and then the defensive coordinator here, Adam Fuller, was when I was at Chattanooga. He was the defensive coordinator when I was the O-line coach. So their connection also assisted in me connecting with Coach Norvell.
Very cool. I was going to say, so Coach, getting to FSU, Pat and I have been watching this team closely, especially with the Osceola for the last 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. And obviously we have our opinions on what was going on up front. I'm curious to know what your initial evaluation was coming on board, what you saw, and in terms of personnel, but also the level of play. And what did you see when you first came in here?
I didn't, when we first got here, we hit it so fast. I didn't have a lot of time to really watch a ton of film when I first got here. The first thing I watched was the bowl game. And that's kind of what started it. And I saw a lot of young guys. Maurice Smith was playing guard. And I saw a little bit of Dante Lucas. He ended up breaking his ankle. And I saw, Brady Scott was playing some tackle. So I saw a little bit of that. And then once we got here, we hit it running, So it was more of trying to establish those relationships before I can do much of an eval. The eval really came from watching the off-season workouts and just a small bit of film that, you would kind of get in between recruiting and everything else that was going on. So my initial thoughts was just youth. It was a lot of young guys, seeing Darius Washington play a bunch of snaps, seeing Maurice play a bunch of snaps. Brady was a sophomore at the time, and then just saw a lot of youth in the room. A lot of inexperience that were actually getting quite a bit of snaps, and saw a lot of different lineups and rotations. So I knew there were multiple guys that been in games. That was kind of my initial thought.
Go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say, now, obviously you made that initial evaluation. After you did that, you saw the guys go through winter workouts as you were going into the spring. What were some of the priorities and points of emphasis as far as improvement individually and collectively?
Well, it always starts the same. It's funny because, you get to a place like Florida State where it's magnified, of course, but throughout my career, that's kind of always the story, when there's a coaching change where, when I was the best scenario I walked into was Georgia Southern when Monken left to go to Army. I got that O-line job. I had 4 senior O-linemen that were really good players, and we had a good year and led the country in rushing, and then we had to replace those 4. So you walk into the same scenario where we led the country in rushing again the next year. When I got to Tulane, it was the same case. Hey, we just get the O-line fixed, we'll have a little bit of success. And then when I get to Charlotte, same thing. They had 5 O-line coaches in 5 years. So it was kind of the same story. So walking in here, you hear the same things coming in. You're their 4th O-line coach or 3rd or whatever. I think the main thing is the coming in. The first thing you have to establish, and I say this a lot, is relationship. Because I am going to demand a lot. I'm talking all of it. So in all aspects. So if I'm going to demand that much, they got to know I have their best interests. It's not where you can just say, shut up and do what I say anymore. So I have to genuinely want what's best for them and be honest with them. So I always started off with one-on-one meetings, and I asked them what they want. And I asked them, hey, what do you want? Because if you're just a guy that follows the schedule, it's going to be hard for you to find success. Number one, playing for me, and in general. So what do you want? Why are you here? What is the purpose? And I take notes on that. And Coach Norvell does a good job because he talks about your why. So he has pictures of their families, and the kids get to choose why they're doing this or why they're making these sacrifices. So it's a similar approach of why are you doing this? And so once I found out the why and what they want out of it, I have something to hold them accountable to what they said. You said this. So I'm only going to hold you accountable to what you say. So once we get that established, then it's building our personal relationship as far as how I can help you get where you want to go and how I'm going to do that. And I tell them exactly how I'm going to do it. It's not hey, I'm just going to get around me and you get to know me. No, I give them a plan. This is how I'm going to do this. So
not a surprise.
The consistency of my message at the beginning, when we first had that conversation, through my action now, if they are not consistent, you'll have inconsistencies. So I have to be consistent in my messaging to them as far as what I told them I was going to do, and they have to be consistent in what they said they wanted. So that's what starts the base relationship. And now, once we have that trust, and once you know I'm doing everything in my power to get you where you want to go, now the demanding parts come. How do you work? How we're going to do this? What standard we're going to create? How I'm going to hold you accountable when you don't hit that standard. Once that is established, then you can start to see the incremental growth, not only just in football. I know that's what gets talked about the most because that's what people, but in all aspects. How consistent can you be in everything? Can you become a consistent person?
Yeah. Coach, you're speaking my language here. I was in a similar situation when I went to South Carolina. Exact same philosophy was, what? How can I make you better? How can we establish a relationship and hold you accountable to what you told me? And that's my job. I always, I've said it on the podcast many times. It's my job to strain your potential and to bring the juice when you're not ready to bring the juice. I'm going to bring the juice, right? And so that's the whole thing. And I've said it too. Players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so that is such a key, and you can see that. So that leads to my next question is, tell us the impact of COVID in your program and in this process, in not having the spring practice and having the shelter in place orders that we had. Tell us how that impacted or impeded your progress along this continuum.
It was a unique situation where I think it made coaches practice what we preach, because every coach in America talks to players about how they respond to adversity. Hey, things are not going your way. How are you going to play? How are you going to practice? You're a little banged up. How are you going to practice? So it gave me an opportunity to say, I had every reason not to be able to establish a relationship with you. I had every reason to make an excuse of why I can't be around. Like, I had all it laid out for me, but what unique things was I going to go out my way to still establish that relationship? So it gave me an opportunity to show effort and how I can be consistent in finding unique ways to let you know I want to build this relationship with you and it genuinely, and not just because of what you can help me do on a football field. So I believe, I try to look at everything positively, where it gave me an opportunity. Okay, I had to actually say, all right, how can I still get these guys to trust me? How can I still build their relationship? So I had to get to know them more. So now you had a little bit more time, whereas if I don't have to worry about this install per se, I can really dive deep into you as a person. Hey, FaceTime and let me see your mom. Show me your room. Show me, let's talk. Hey, what do you like? I had more time to do those things. So I think it gave us. Can you give us a specific example of you don't have to name a name, but just how that, where you saw that really have an impact? Well, I'm going to start with academics because everybody was doing academically. So usually, we all played the game. We're the punishment in academics. We're the ones that, hey, tell me when he ain't going to class and I'll roll him. I'll up down. We are the hey, they help you. I'll make sure you're there and showing up. So what this gave me was a chance was, okay, send me the assignments. Our academic do a job, the department does a great job. Send me everybody's assignment. And I'm going to have conversations about those assignments. I want you to FaceTime me and show me your assignment. Hey, read that paper to me. Let me see where you come in. What was the topic of it? What did you feel important about? Hey, why are you majoring in this? Like, it gave me a chance to have more conversational pieces in academics and not just be the enforcement. And I don't believe many players and all of us had a coach that would say, hey, tell me the topic of this paper. Why'd you pick that topic? What are you interested in? And especially with all the social issues. And so it gives you more conversational pieces to spend that time instead of always just being the enforcer.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, so that leads me to my next thing is you talk about building the relationship with these players. Mm-hmm. You know, for 2 or 3 years, these guys have been beat up, right? And nationally, it just hasn't gone well up front, especially, and guilty as charged. I probably, did my share of that also, regrettably.
It's okay to criticize.
Well, I always say I criticize the performance, not the performer. It's not personal, right? Mm-hmm. And so tell me how you've gone about instilling confidence in these guys that, you know what, you guys are pretty good. We have the ability in this room to change things. It's in your power to do it. Tell us how those conversations have gone and how have you gone about instilling more confidence in these guys to get them where they are now and in the future. Truth.
I don't believe in false confidence. It's truth. Telling them the truth and holding them accountable to the truth. I'll give you an example. In our position meeting, I kind of give you a little bit more of, I tell guys, I don't like non-growth. If you don't grow or I don't see any type of improvement in some aspect of your life, you're not going to like playing for me. You're not going to enjoy it. We're not going to have a great relationship. You're going to dread walking in my meeting room because it's going to be tough for you. If I don't see improvement, it's going to be awkward. We're not going to get along. We're going to be at odds because I'm not seeing any improvement. I don't care if it's just Coach Norvell talks about 1% better each day. So that's the first thing we start with. I applaud all types of improvement, depending on where your base or where you started from. So let's say you came in one meeting and, because they come dressed to meetings and you didn't have your knee brace fully strapped. And the next day you got it strapped up. Thank you. You know what? You got better from yesterday. Or if we want to go into more football, yesterday you kept wrapping your left hand on base blocks. Fix that for me. Don't whine about drills. Don't tell me, don't show me frustration. Fix that one thing. You might go the wrong way 12 times today. But you know what? On base blocks, I saw you tuck your left elbow. I appreciate that. Thank you. Because that's all I can ask for. So I have to be specific in what I'm asking for. I can't come in this room and say, we're going to fix everything. We're going to be the best blockers, pass. We're going to get the best grades. We're going to have no social issues. No, I got to be specific in what I'm asking for to see the improvement. And if I don't see it, it's uncomfortable. So I'm not going to be your friend if you're not growing. We're not going to have a great relationship. So creating that dynamic of improvement overall usually get you, some type of results, or it's uncomfortable. They just, they don't want to be around. They lose the culture of the room. They don't feel comfortable in there because they're not growing. So it challenges them, and it also challenges me because now I'm putting myself on the forefront. Okay, Coach Atkins, you're talking about this improvement, but you walked in this meeting room and we didn't have a practice cut up. We just watching practice. We don't have notes in the film that talk exactly about what happened before, so we can watch it and synchronize and not just watch practice as it went. So I have to be organized enough to show them the mistakes and not also walk into a meeting room with 20 different corrections, maybe just 3 or 4. So it forces me to consistently give them those 3 or 4. And it also thickens the skin of now they know Coach is with me, man. I just messed up on 10 things. He ain't even come in here throwing none. He talked about what he asked me to do yesterday. And he was honest. He said, I don't care if you don't understand the alcohol on slide protection, whatever. Make sure when you take this pass that I see your hands tight. Let's start from that. You have to give them realistic goals, which that builds confidence because they can get that small incremental goals more than I need you to make all conference.
Now, Coach, obviously you're an offensive line coach is the only guy that coaches 5 people. You're dealing with 5 different personalities and on the field at the same time, 5 different abilities. And then, of course, at practice in the meeting room, you're dealing with 20 guys at one time. How do you get your point across? Is it consistent as to the group, or do you handle it on a person-by-person basis as far as how you communicate with the kids?
You got to do a little bit of both. My job is to push the group, and I'm honest in that in the room. I can't spend an hour position meeting talking about one player. We have to be able to look at it as a unit and what's going to push the unit forward. My graduate assistant, Man Ray Santa Moore, does a fantastic job. He played for me at Georgia Southern. And I tell them, if ever a time in a meeting you feel like the meeting has lapped you, he is available 24 hours to catch you up. It's just a phone call away. With the limitations, there's only so much time I can mandate with them with me. But if they want to meet with me, sometimes, you remember as a player, sometimes you want to go around the coach a little bit and you want to show and please. So for example, let's say, Darius Washington is struggling with something. He wants to impress because remember, I like growth in my meeting. So he might say, call Mara and say, I want to meet about this. And then the next day he walks in my meeting room, he's answering questions a little bit faster because he wants me to tell him good job. So I believe, I have to do a good job of not asking players to do something they're not capable of and understanding how to put something in place where they can have some success, but also challenging them for personal growth of, hey, you find unique ways where you can get ahead and still keep that competitive edge in the competition of the room. Because at the end, my job is to keep the group moving forward.
Speaking of keeping the group moving forward, one of the things that Mark and I have noticed that we think is a big area of improvement is the cohesiveness of the unit, working together, whether it's in working up from the first level to the second level in the run game or passing off.
Long way to go, Bo.
But hey, it's better.
One of the biggest things I've seen is communication. I see guys talking to each other, pointing to each other. That communication.
Yeah.
That has really stuck out to me. I always told my guys, I said, just make a call. It might be the wrong call, but if you execute it, you might get something good out of it, right? So
that's my favorite movie line. One of my favorite shows is The Wire. He said, hey, we get a command and it's a lie. We follow the command. We're going to ride on that lie.
That's right. That's right on it. I hear it. Like I said, you're speaking my language on a lot of this. One of the things I think is universal for offensive line coaches is you never have enough fundamental time, right? You always get the first 15 minutes of practice, and then that's all team during the season. So as one offensive line coach to another, tell me the ways that you steal individual time to work on the finer points of blocking.
Coach Norvell does a good job of emphasizing walkthrough periods, and that's a great time to focus on an individual fundamental correction because you really get to slow down and work that correction. I really get to say, all right, man, I need you to, isolate your punches in pass pro. So when I take a set in that walk, I'm going to isolate my punches every single time because I don't have to worry about defeat, ooze, ahs, or mostly assignment. So you're going to steal fundamental time within the drills, within everything you do. But I believe during those times when you're teaching, I could be standing up in a hotel lobby working on outside zone, and you can just make sure your backside elbow is tucked in every time we walk through it. That's a fundamental fix because all fundamental training is focusing on that while you have a responsibility in an assignment. So you try to train in muscle memory, but it also, when you first start doing it, they have to focus on it. And then after they get to focus on it, it becomes a habit and then it's trained. But to get them to focus on it as many times as I can, I like to steal those times when you're having those walk and talk sessions where everybody else, might be chilling and, point where they're going, but, the offensive line is overemphasizing or over-exaggerating small fundamental details of maybe getting your second step before contacting the ball. Maybe, coming out of your stance and making the guy that's going across from you a little uncomfortable, like, man, hold on now. But you are focused on the details of what your job is.
So the other thing is this. You talked about building relationships, and that gives you the ability to uphold the standards. Talk to me about the standards of this group and how it's been elevated, because it's very obvious to me that, you're a very demanding coach. You demand excellence in all things. How has that gone, and how painful was it for this group overall to just, was it painful? Was it just something they were really hungry for and really readily accepted?
I think that's pretty much universal. You're always going, my wife tells me, me and my wife have arguments because she's very critical of me. And anytime somebody's always critical with you, it's hard to like them. Where everything they say is a critique, it's a correction, it's telling what you did wrong. So you're gonna have rough patches, where you're gonna have frustrating moments, like, man, come on. Like, so you have those tough times, those tough conversations because, I'm critical. I'm very critical. I'm obsessed with correction. So you have to have the relationship where in those frustrating moments, they go back in their mind and say, but that's Coach Atkins. I know he with me. I know he's there with me. I know this is nothing because, we all played the game. You've seen it before. You've seen these movies before where, a coach is on you just while he's peeking at the head coach while he's yelling at you, or when he's, showing out because we're having a group setting. They have to know Coach Atkins is with us. So he can do that to me because I know why he's doing that. And that makes me drive him even more. So you're going to have those rough moments where, they don't quite understand why you're so demanding and why you're so critical. But if the relationship was established before that, you shouldn't have many major issues because that trust factor is still there. And the conversation changes after practice. It's no longer the attacking of the action. It's the talking to of the person.
Exactly.
I hated your hands today. And I talked bad about that for a long time. But while we're walking off the field, come in, man, what you tripping? Like, come on, man, you know better than that. Now I'm talking to the person and not coaching the action, and that reaffirms the relationship. So they understand the limited time we have to take care of business and why it can't be wasted.
Now, Coach, you mentioned the people, the person. In your group, on the 2 deep, you got 5 guys in your top 10 that are either redshirt freshmen or younger. Have you ever coached such a young group in the history of your career?
Oh, yeah, Coach Juco Ball. One before, all freshmen.
All freshmen, yeah, all freshmen.
Yeah, so right. I've been there before, but no, youth is good. There's nothing because young guys.
You don't have any bad habits to undo, right?
Well, yeah, more mental. The habit training is, it comes with it. You can watch Super Bowl film and correct guys, habits. It's more of the mental training of how to take care of how you go about where you want to go. Like they're hungry for teach me how. Like I don't know how to study film. I don't know how to. Like, I don't know what are you talking, like these calls and quarters. And I don't know, what are you talking about? So the easiest way for me to really, establish that when I whoop him in Madden, because I'm telling you, I say, look, now y'all don't hey, why they call this nickel? I don't know. I just like it because we look fast. Well, no, it's 5 DBs. Like even those small moments, like, man, coach might know a little ball, So it's youth is good because the awakening eyes, as coach used to call them, like, you still see those light ups like, oh, that's why we make the back call against Bear. Like you see those aha moments. And exactly. I enjoy those moments because now, once they have the aha, they usually don't forget them.
Right. And that's the biggest challenge for an offensive line coach to me is sorry to talk over you there, coach, is you want that group to think the same way. You want them to think like you think. And communicate what you think and see what you see. You train them in that way. So when they see when a problem comes out on the field and you're on the sideline, they can work it out for themselves. And when they come off the field, they can look at you and you guys can communicate and you know exactly what's happening out there, right?
Yes. So that's why Maurice Smith fires me up because he's stepped into that role in the middle and he's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, you can see it, Coach. I've been singing your praises because I can see the difference like I said, how they communicate, how they work together. I can tell they're seeing the same things, and that, they're an extension of you on the field, which, even getting to know you here a little bit excites me, because I know we're moving in the right direction,
Yeah.
So
it's just process driven, process driven. We got a long way to before I get any good jobs.
Of course, you're never there.
I just it's just enjoying the process of improvement.
Well, Coach, you did go ahead. Sorry about that.
That's all. Enjoying the process of improvement.
Well, obviously the lack of spring practice affected Florida State. It affected everybody, but it's probably more critical for a first-year program to have that spring practice. As Mark and I have talked about on several podcasts, it's where you instill your culture, where you instill mental and physical toughness. So it put every first-year program behind, in my opinion. But you guys have shown great improvement since last year, which is what FSU fans compare everything to, right? I know that you guys came in and it was a blank slate, and not that this matters to you because you still got a half season to go, but right now you guys are 25th in rushing offense. It's even better than that when you factor in just FBS opponents, 17th, and you got 5 games to go, and you're not going to rest until, and you've said that the team has the unit's got to make improvement, and I would not expect to hear anything other than that from a football coach. But has this group exceeded your expectations at this point?
No, sir. I mean, we still got a lot of ways to go. I believe that my expectation of them is higher than probably what it should be, but we're not close. I mean, I believe we have so many. I've enjoyed the daily improvement more. I know, we have talked about, stats and football wise, but just, we coach had us read a book, and it starts off with, making your bed. Like I enjoy those moments where everybody was on time for treatment, where, the weight room guys, attacked the workout this week, where I got a call from our academic department that said he turned in all his work before Thursday before he can travel on Friday. I've enjoyed, we made the out call on inside zone. So it's more of a all-encompass approach, which I know you all can kind of more relate to. So we're just starting the foundation of the standard of what, if they want to enjoy our relationship, what it has to be. So, we're just scratching. I mean, we're just becoming normal. I mean, this is normal in the room. So we have to make it where, this standard, it sets at the minimum.
Yeah. And another question I have for you, Coach. Obviously, you're working with some young kids. In particular, Robert Scott has really stood out. You guys have not. You're exposing him to. I saw him the other day against Louisville. He's a lead blocker. You're not protecting him. He's learning on the run. Just talk about how hard it is. I don't think most people realize how difficult it is to play offensive line as a true freshman in college. And obviously, Maurice has been impressive, as has Darius too. But just talk about how difficult that transition can be for a young kid coming from high school to college.
I couldn't do it, so I'm glad I got some guys in here that can do it. But the most difficult is learning on the fly, and being able to take the outward criticism that you get as you're learning, as you're developing. That's probably the struggle for, you wish you could, just like you do your children, you wish you can protect them from the world as they start their journey of improvement and learning, but you can't. So I believe that's the most difficult part. Like, you don't want, your young kids going somewhere and seeing some things or hearing things that they're not ready for, that you haven't prepared them for. You want them to be able to stay in their cocoon while they're fine, before they get their wings. But so, I'll give those young guys credit of being able to focus on their improvement despite, everything around them. So you have those major, mistakes that I love. I love when they miss something or do something wrong, if it's the first time, because now I know you can pocket that, bank that. You just learn that, so I don't have to worry about it next time. And if I do have to worry about it, you open up the competition for somebody else to replace. So I enjoy the moments of struggle for the process of improvement. But being a young guy is hard because it's all brand new. Robert Scott, I'll kind of give him a little story. We going out there to play this team up in South Bend, and man, I'm a coach, and I'm thinking, man, you about to start against the Irish, and he looked at me, coach, I'm just playing football, man. I'll tell you what his response was. I said, man, you ready, for this moment? Because he didn't know he was starting to the walkthrough at the hotel. I said, you ready for this moment? And his answer was great. He said, all I know is I need to know if it's a 3 technique or a 2-eye. That's what his was. Like, coach, what you saying? I ain't got time for. Like, I just need to know whether these are 3 technique going to guard or a 2-eye, so I know how to operate.
That's a perfect mentality right there for a kid like that, isn't it?
I said, man, you're going to be fine if you keep that mindset and block everything out. So he was just like, man, I'm just focused on them 2 things right now, coach. Let me worry about that the next day. And so I believe, keeping those guys focused very specific has helped them.
Yeah. Let me ask this quick question. So give us a little insight. Like when I was at FSU, it was so competitive, when we went against the defense in practice. And give us a sense when you guys practice, when you go live against the defense, do you guys, try to get that competitiveness? And is it competitive out there like that?
Very competitive, very, very competitive, which I enjoy, which has helped those young guys. That ties into Robert Scott, who has to go against Kango every day.
Yep.
That goes into Maurice, who has to go against Marvin and Coop and Corey Durden. So, in their mind, I get this all the time. So, those competitive practices is what helped more than anything our team get, better and improve. And so, it's competitive, and I'm a high rep guy. So, I don't, the word, 2s and 3s doesn't exist much. So we're going to get this work.
That's good. So that leads me to my follow-up then. Have you and Coach Haggins ever got to yelling at each other? And if so, just kick him in the knee and you're okay.
No, I've never yelled at Coach Haggins. We have I will tell this story. One day they were just kicking our butt bad. I don't think we could get a pass off. So I started yelling screen on all pass plays just to get them to start retracing their steps a little bit just so we can get the ball off. I will tell that story. He might have got a little upset with me that
day. Good overdone. Hey, Coach, I want to ask you about Darius. How's he coming along from the injury, and are you guys expecting to have him back for Pitt in the second half of the season?
Oh, yeah, I'm expecting Darius. He practiced today, did a good job. I'm proud of him. He's been able to kind of more while he was hurt, kind of up his mental part. He's been taking reps at guard and tackle. So I'm excited for Darius, and I'm liking what I'm seeing.
And then Thomas Schrader, a name we heard a lot during camp, had a setback and couldn't get on the field early in the game. How's he coming along?
Also, same thing today. He practiced well today, and I'm excited about him.
All right, Coach, want to get in, obviously, the NCAA dead period has put everybody behind in recruiting and how you're able to do it. But you guys already have 2 commitments on the offensive line. You can't speak to either one of the individuals, but both Mark and I are huge fans of Rod and look forward to seeing what you can do with him once you get him on campus. But what kind of physical attributes are you looking for at tackle as opposed to guard, as opposed to center? What is a couple of the key things you look for physically in a prospect?
I'll give you 3 things that, no matter position, what it comes down to evaluation. The first thing, I talk about is do they enjoy the journey? How much do they love everything surrounding the game? Because everybody loves the game, but there's a lot of things that go into your development: nutrition, weight room, mental, everything. How you take care of your body, treatment. Do they love that part, or do they just do it to play? Which is okay sometimes too, because that at least gives them a carrot over there. I can dangle so to make sure they are getting that part. The next thing is athletic ability to recover. You watch a lot of good film when guys run their feet and move and well and things like that. But when they get in bad situations, do they have the ability to recover through athleticism, which is huge for me. And the last thing would be, process of information. How do they process information in rapid moments? Because you got to know how they're going to react, how their mind turns over information as they're seeing it. So, I guess those 3 things would be the the top three things I look for in regardless of position. And the priority I would think would be, do they enjoy the process, and how well do they process information that's given to them? And, how big is that SIM card in that head?
Now, my brother's a college football coach, and he's a big measurements guy. He wants long athletes, and I tell him all the time, if you had recruited yourself, you would have turned yourself down because you were a shorter guy. Are you big? Down too.
Make that three.
Are you big into measurements, or are you able to see intangibles or pick that up from the high school coaches? I mean, are you looking for a specific size tackle versus a specific size center? Do you have to have a minimum measurement?
Well, the best way I can put it is of course we like them long, lean, athletic, and pretty. We all enjoy those. I'm not one that can act like I can make a miracle, but what length is important because it adds distance, which adds time to recover. So you like him long because if he can separate your body from the defender's body, it gives him time to catch up in his feet in protection and in run game. So that's always a priority, but there's always an exception to the rule. There's always players out there that prove to you that none of that means anything. Now, those are the exception. So, I don't have a measurement minimum or maximum. It's more of, basic, can they perform at this level against the competition that we're going against? And if they do have a deficiency in one of those areas, how do they overcome it? And what are they exceptional at to be able to overcome the deficiencies?
And when you're talking to a high school coach, is there something that you want to hear him say about a kid that you're just like, all right, listen, I like what he does, but now that you said this, is there any one or two things that you'd like to voluntarily for a high school coach to say about a prospect?
Personal responsibility. That's the number one thing. When we attach personal responsibility to a decision, we believe it. Now, whether right or wrong, that doesn't matter. But when a high school coach, because the high school coach, when we talk to them, we think they're just talking. They talk to every coach in the country. So when they attach their personal responsibility, coach, this is me, and I'm letting you know. That's when all right, let me double check this just to make sure, or let me listen, because coaches are gonna give you the information. They want to help every kid, but you all know the difference of personal accountability to a decision or a choice more than just giving the information.
All right, Coach, any given year, and I'll ask you for this year, you got two kids committed. Do you have an optimal number of linemen that you would like to sign each and every year?
That's a good thing about being a position coach. That's above my head.
Well, that's true.
Pat, they call offensive line coaches, we're all part of the Mushroom Society, right?
Yeah.
You know what that means, right?
Yeah, put me in a dark corner, baby.
That's right. We're always kept in the dark and fed a lot of crap.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, with initials and all, I'm gonna try to go get as many as I'm allowed, but I don't. I got to be told sit down and shut up before I 20. Yeah.
So more. So you want more than you're going to be allowed to have.
No question.
Okay.
Always.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, I can certainly understand that. Now, Mark, did you have another question?
No, I appreciate it. Get to know him a little bit, Coach. Really respect what you're doing. Any number of times I've said I've nominated you for the Broyles Award, so just know that for what that's worth. I think you've done a fantastic job with these guys.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. We got a long way.
Well, I mean, I have a discerning eye when it comes to these guys, and I know what I'm seeing, and I really appreciate you and the way you go about it, because it looks like you go about it the right way, and you're getting it done. So continued success to you. I look forward to getting to meet you one day, and I would like to buy you a barbecue sandwich over at Jim and Milt's one day.
Oh, I would love that sandwich, and thank y'all for what you do and your support, and it's always good to talk to Seminoles, because there's a personal investment, just like I talked about the coach. Somebody's personally invested. Different, the words mean more, so I listen, because I'm not a huge open access. You know, I like to take care of business, but when you're talking to Seminoles, it's different.
Well, Coach, you mentioned Tallahassee. We talked a little bit about when we did the quarantine videos back in the spring. What is your favorite things about? What have you learned about Tallahassee since March or April, and what are your favorite things about being in Tallahassee?
Here's what I love about Tallahassee, and this is what I love, because I'm from Chicago. I visited Florida a little bit, and every time you think of Florida, you think of different cities. Tallahassee is not and it's the capital, but it's not the first thing that comes in your mind when you go to somebody in California and ask them to tell you about Florida. They don't say, "Oh, Tallahassee." But when you're in Tallahassee, every person is in Tallahassee believes this is the greatest place ever. Like, it's like the question you just asked me, I get that more than anything else. You know, once they find out, how you loving Tallahassee? That's the first question you get. You know, with the small business, with the college, and there's FAMU is down. Like, people love Tallahassee. Even when the quarantine ended, this is a few places where I saw students rushing back to Tallahassee. But they wanted to get back here, and they wanted to be up there on Tennessee Street and, throughout the pandemic. So what I've enjoyed about Tallahassee is that it's kind of it's its own personality, where when people come here, a lot of people are like, coaches coming that are retired here. I'm talking people not from Tallahassee that coach football at Florida State, they retire here in Tallahassee. So it's a place that seems to grab people. And once it grabs you, people don't leave. They feel personally attached to it. So that speaks to the people here. The people love it here because they made it home. And it's uniquely where you have a little bit of everything, a little taste of, you like to hunt fish, but you like to shop, you like to do this, you like to eat. I mean, it has a small taste of everything, so you don't have to go too far looking for, anything on the outside.
Now, is there anything about that you've learned about Florida State football or the university that maybe you didn't know when you first got here that has caught you by surprise?
Just the relationship with the Seminole tribe. That was the most informational. I got my degree in history, so that information coming from a person from the outside coming into was amazing. Just learning that connection of, this is not a mascot. This is a representation of a group of people. So that blew my mind, because I never even put those two together. It was more like, I would just say they're just the Seminoles, but no, they're a representation, and they meet with the Seminole tribe about access and what can and can't be done to properly represent. So I thought that was amazing.
All right, now I got to ask you this question, because it's still, I'm 50 years old and I've been around this program since I was 15 in some form or fashion. And I still get chill bumps at nighttime when it happens, not so much in the daytime, but first two games at home were daytime games. You saw Osceola and Renegade come out, throw the spear, but that North Carolina game at night, and I felt bad for you guys because it's only 19,000 people in the stands, but kind of talk about that first night game experience at Doak Campbell Stadium.
Took me back to being a 9-year-old watching Florida State football just like everybody else in the country, where you've seen that on television, on video games. You've seen it so many times, and then to see it live, just for a moment, you lose, purpose a little bit and just kind of enjoy the moment, which was awesome for me. We all, coaches, we talk about those moments where you lose yourself as a coach and you become the fan of college football that we all are. And we don't get many opportunities to do that. And that was one of those moments I got to become a fan for a small moment, and then I had to go worry about 3 techniques, 2 hours, and it's perfect.
Yeah, well, hey, at least you love it. That's the important thing. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that because, I don't think they should be allowed to play home games at Florida State until after dark. It's just one of the most special college experiences you'll ever have. And I cannot wait till you guys get to experience in front of a packed house, hopefully next year.
Don't let my wife hear you say that, because she enjoys the day games because of the evening. So
yeah.
Right. Mark know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you mean. I was the outlier that loved noon games.
Yeah.
You're home and you don't watch
many.
you get to watch the rest of the games with your family, right?
Oh, man. So there's nothing like a night game to do, but I agree with that 1,000%.
Well, Coach, hey, we appreciate you joining us, and we know you're busy. Thanks for taking some time out. And like Mark said, hopefully we can all catch up in person down the road.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, fellas. Hopefully, I enjoyed the conversation, and let's go get better.
This has been another edition of the Osceola's Seminole Sidelines. To subscribe to the Osceola, go to theosceola.com. And right now, enter the code FSU20 and get 20% off your annual subscription. That's FSU20. Go Noles!